Pakistan and Bangladesh are now among 50 countries with lower tariff rates from the United States of America than India. This is perhaps one of the most fraught phases for Indo US relations in recent memory. The question and the debate is wide open. Should India stay in and keep negotiating with Trump, even as he lashes out, imposing not just 25% tariffs through a trade lens, but also supposedly penalizes India for our relations with Russia? Or should India walk out of these trade negotiations? The issue has presented a foreign policy challenge, but has also created fierce domestic politics. The leader of the opposition, Rahul Gandhi, went so far as to back Donald Trump's comments on India being a dead economy. He was the only Congress leader to make that comment, and those comments have created their own outrage at home. How should India react to Trump's trade war, even as he appears to pivot closer to Pakistan and Bangladesh? I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo Story. On the program today, the politics and the geopolitics that are swirling all around Trump's tirade against India. A tirade that, even by his own standards of volatility, feel personal. There's something especially unhinged about some of the remarks that Donald Trump has been making for India, in particular describing India to be a dead economy. Trump seems to be almost blackmailing India, suggesting that India's purchase of oil from Russia is the reason for the penalty. Remember, 6 Indian companies have also been slapped with US sanctions for doing business with Iran. Trump is now clearly going well beyond rebalancing the US trade relations with countries and is using these tariffs to actually coerce policy decisions and to manipulate foreign policy. How should India respond? How might the Modi government respond? Let me introduce our very distinguished panel of experts today as we ask this question. Does India not get provoked, hunker down and keep talking, or should we just walk away? Joining me from Washington this morning is Seema Sirohi, senior journalist, author, somebody who has spent decades covering and writing about foreign policy. It's good to have you with us, Seema. Also joining us on the program today is Kushal Mehra, who's of course a podcast host and a policy analyst and has also looked at geopolitics, in particular North America and India, for a very, very long time. It's good to have you with us, Kushal. And also joining us is veteran diplomat, Ambassador Veena Sikri. I remember, ma'am, talking to you on the day that the TRF was designated and recognized to be a terror organization, a proxy for the Lashkar. We thought things were getting better, but with Trump, it seems to be a perennial roller coaster. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. As I said in my opening, Pakistan and Bangladesh are now among 50 countries with lower tariffs than India. This is well beyond rebalancing trade. Ambassador Sikri, I'll start with you. I think the fundamental question is, does India stay in or walk out? Do you keep talking and hope to get a better deal? Is this Trump being maximalist? Do you sort of on the quiet negotiate him down to a better deal? And as I ask this question, I think it's also important to say that one of Trump's lies has actually been exposed by him himself. The trade deal he's offering India is so poor that his entire claim that trade was dangled in return for a so-called ceasefire brokerage between India and Pakistan has been revealed to be just a pure work of fiction. Because if there was really a sweetheart trade deal, then we ain't seeing it. Do we talk? Do we walk away? Ambassador Sikri.
You're right in what you said, Barkha. Thank you for having me on your show. But let me say that the answer is not so simple. I think at the moment, in response to all these requests, these statements from President Trump, the one issue that stands out majorly is that this has introduced a whole new volatility in the global trade situation, in the global trade scenario. It's not just India. Today it's India, tomorrow it will be somebody else, day after it will be India again. So I don't think we can conduct global trade or conduct foreign policy with coercion based on tariffs. That's one thing. But let me say that India's response, the government of India's response, has been absolutely the correct one, very calm, very dignified, very cautious, but absolutely, not raising the temperature at all. We've said that we are going to follow our national interest. That's paramount, and we will stick with that. Secondly, for us, the interests of the farmers, the entrepreneurs, and the MSMEs, micro, small, and medium, are paramount. And we
Mhm.
do know that issues like on dairy and agriculture, giving in on genetically modified feeds, or giving in on dairy products which have cows milk fed on non-vegetarian, maybe even beef material, would not be acceptable in India. So these are red lines. I don't think anybody in India would cross it. The negotiations on the trade we know are going on, and we are prepared to continue the negotiations. That's
Mhm.
important because we're not breaking them at all. We're going to continue the negotiation. There's a round scheduled in Delhi on 21st of August, I think, the third week of August. And I think we're ready for that. And we're always going to be ready with the negotiation. But the bottom lines are going to remain. And I do know that even in the negotiations that have gone on so far, everybody in the negotiation says they're only waiting for one word, and that is from President Trump. We know that the USTR, maybe on one or two occasions, took drafts of potential agreements, trade agreements,
Mhm.
initial agreements between India and the USA to the president, but these were not cleared. They were not accepted. No, there should be more, or there should be more. So I think that in the meanwhile, while we have maintained this position very carefully and cautiously, we will continue with the negotiations. But I think it is clear that India's exports to the USA are going to face a problem. And I think diversification is an important option.
Can I can
Whether
I can I ask you something though before I go to Seema? You said that we cannot conduct global foreign policy under the coercion of tariffs. The problem is that this is no longer only a trade negotiation. Look, there can be two views on whether there's too much protectionism, whether India should be lowering, sort of, looking at tariffs all over again through a new lens. But when you slap a so-called penalty on a country, with self-respect, with our own sort of history of ties, of our multi-aligned approach to the world, then it's almost like somebody became class monitor and is, rapping a naughty boy or girl on the knuckles. No country wants to be treated like that. And that is where I think the problem is in the penalty. The tariffs are going to be negotiated, but this so-called penalty, how do we respond to that?
I think that too is not going to change the basic directions of India's foreign policy. It's not, because we've seen the head of NATO also made the same 500% tariffs. Now, if USA is going to put a penalty, then some other country will put a penalty. And at the same time, I just heard a figure on an earlier talk show that maybe the trade between USA and Russia in the first 6 months of 2025 may have crossed $2 billion, including
Mm.
items like fertilizers and things like that. So I think that saying that you're going to put penalty on India for trade with Russia, for buying oil from Russia, and then you are yourself doing trade, including uranium, including fertilizers, and then the head of NATO does the same, and we know the EU is continuing to buy oil products from Russia, including the ones where the crude comes to India, is refined, and then goes to the European Union. So I don't think that this is a viable method of influencing foreign policy, and I don't think India is going to fall for it at all. I think we, in our own aspect, we attach the highest importance to the bilateral relationship with the USA. We are prepared to actually look at defense purchases from USA. So now everybody's saying the F-35s are off the list of the agenda.
Yeah, that's what Bloomberg reported today, that we've said no to the F-35.
Yes, but there
Uh,
are so many other defense. There's the Nisar, which happened 2 days ago. The satellite launch between ISRO and NASA, jointly built satellite, very, very important. The IMEC meeting is continuing to take place in India, I think, very soon. And there's talk that Vicky Gale from the National Security Council Secretariat in the White House is possibly going to be here. So negotiations are continuing, trade is continuing. But I think this kind of using tariffs, the weaponizing of tariffs, this is the problem. And also
Absolutely.
using tariffs
Yeah.
to influence foreign policy, this is the problem on which I think there is a red line. We've seen Mark Carney's letter today. The Prime Minister of Canada has written to Trump, and he said the same thing. We are going to build Canada. We are not going to give in to 35%. So
So,
let's see. Yeah.
so in a way, what you're counseling against is sentimentalism. You're saying, let's see, the entire world is grappling with this. But Seema, I've been following your commentary on this, your analysis on this, and even you felt like so many people in India are now wondering, is there something personal here? Is this linked in some ways to Operation Sindoor and Trump's propensity for flattery that the Pakistanis have offered, in platefuls, also saying he should get the Nobel Prize? Is it to do with the fact that just hours before he made this announcement, Prime Minister Modi, speaking in Parliament, basically poo-pooed the idea that the Americans had mediated the halt in hostilities between India and Pakistan, and in fact said that JD Vance had to try him a few times before he could return the phone call. Is that part of what's irking Trump? But something seems to be irking him personally. What is it? Because he's not necessarily using this language, dead economy, for other countries that he's slapping massive tariffs on. Seema.
Yeah. So, Barkha, thank you for having me. I agree with you. There is some sense of personal pique in how he's dealing with India. Why that is, we can only speculate. It is true that Pakistan somehow has got his ear through the many lobbyists it has deployed in Washington, D.C. And India's absolute refusal to give him any credit at all. While technically, yes, India has its timeline on what happened and how it happened, but there are ways and ways to sort of deal with the situation. So the question is, did Indian diplomacy fail at some level? Trump had made it clear that he wanted a phone call with Prime Minister Modi. That phone call never came. He has talked to the head of government in every other case. Like just yesterday, he was talking to the Mexican president. So avoiding that phone call, yes, it has bothered him a great deal. Then not even thanking him. Let's say, for example, when the US designated the resistance force, like the terrorist group, as a designated terrorist group, Modi could have just called and said thank you. It's, his Trump's ego is at play. We all know that. The whole world knows that. The whole world is adjusting. So the extra attack and the terrible language that he's using is perhaps coming from there.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question just on that? It could be one, as I remember, the phone call that takes place between Prime Minister Modi and President Trump takes place when Trump leaves early from Canada and he goes back to the US, and then he has a meeting with Asim Munir, Pakistan's army chief and field marshal. And at that very time, he invites Modi to come and see him in Washington. And of course, no Indian prime minister is going to go at the same time as Munir is hanging about in DC. And then subsequently there is a phone call where I think the readout from the Indian side says that Modi made it very clear that there's no question of any country mediating between India and any other country. Do you think that phone call or that thank you wasn't made or wasn't offered because Trump by then was repeatedly claiming a role for himself that he hadn't performed? Because back channel and front channel, a seat at the table as a tripartite player and being a messenger are very different things. Global diplomacy is full of moments where world leaders call one country and the other country. That's not mediation.
It's not. But we also cannot deny that the US played some sort of role, whether it was in just passing on messages. That's how I look at it. JD Vance's call to the Prime Minister was passing along a message that Pakistan has told me X, Y, and Z, that they are preparing for a major attack. And according to the Indian readout, that Prime Minister Modi told him that, we'll retaliate in equal measure or more. So that passing on of messages was important. And in the past crises that India and Pakistan have had, the US has played that kind of role. Other presidents haven't insisted on being recognized for that role the way Trump is doing. And, to mention this more than 25 times, tells you a story. It's just
And what I'm hearing you say is instead of getting irritated, India could have just been kind of nice about it and said, "Thank you, President Trump. The TRF is a great moment," or Americans played their part in bringing Pakistan to its senses, or something.
something.
Now, okay, before I come to Kushal, Ambassador Sikri, I must give you a chance to retaliate or respond or react to this. Go ahead. Seema asks that question: did diplomacy fail? Should diplomacy have been defter? Should diplomacy have been softer? I don't necessarily agree. Hotheads like me think India should walk out of the trade talks, by the way, just for the record. I'm a hothead. But I see Seema's point. She has spent decades reporting this. You have spent decades practicing it. I think what she's saying is, could there have been a gentler touch, a sweeter touch from India?
Um, you know, Seema, and Barkha, diplomacy, good relations between countries are based on recognition of mutual sensitivities,
Yeah,
respect for these sensitivities, and creating mutual trust. Everything is important, and I can accept what Seema is saying from the point of view of Washington D.C. that there's a big effort and so on. But please let us preface that by saying what Washington is trying to do with Pakistan. This is the complete reversal to the hyphenation age of India and Pakistan, which India has always resisted. So I
yeah.
don't think India is going to go back to accepting this kind of hyphenation. And if I may say so, what happened between Pakistan and Trump and Asim Muni this time, it has a great parallel in what happened between Nawaz Sharif and Bill Clinton during Kargil. And if you
Yeah.
remember, Kargil, then Nawaz Sharif suddenly opted and went to Washington, D.C. and said, that, oh, come on now, please help and so on. And he told Bill Clinton, if he wants to let the Pakistan DGMO talk to us, we will look at the question of any ceasefire.
And,
But
and and we also said that any intruders inside Indian territory had to pull back and vacate. And
yes,
Clinton reads Sharif the Riot Act. What Seema is arguing is that's also a kind of role. No problem in acknowledging it. It's not mediation, it's a role. Acknowledge it.
it's a role induced by Pakistan. Pakistan has been inducing this all the time. They did it then at Kargil, they're doing it again now. So this
Yeah.
new factor is the love fest between USA and Pakistan. But this is a sensitivity for India. This is a very important sense. Look at the domestic Indian political scene. Look at what's
Yeah.
happening, in India. How could you expect ever at any time that any prime minister of India would accept it? And we've been saying this all along. It's not like today's position or yesterday's position. And the complication is of linking this to the Nobel Peace Prize and saying, and then Pakistan recommending it as a Nobel Peace Prize. Can you accept that it's the mediation? India was ready with the retaliation. We did the retaliation on the 7th of May, and destroying all the terrorist infrastructure, whether Murid Ke, Bhavalpur and others. And when Pakistan undertook their attack and we were able to fully repulse the attack, as you know, they were even hitting Delhi, and their missiles were destroyed. They were trying to attack our air defense system, which we were able to resist. And then on the 9th and 10th of May, this massive counter-attack by India on the Air Force bases of Pakistan, which some of them have still not reopened, and the
Yeah.
destruction of the command and control center at Noor Khan at Sargodha. Those are things which India would have done, would have been in the Indian pipeline on its own. We respect fully that, and we would have continued. Of course, that within India there was such a strong lobby for saying, continue with the attacks on Pakistan. Why are you stopping? So, but
Yeah.
India, when Pakistan DGMO called a DGMO, we said, no, we don't want to continue, and we want a ceasefire. This is a youth viram for us. But we are watching the scene, and we know that on Monday this week, we have actually killed the terrorists who were involved in the
I
Pahalgam attack.
I hear you, but I think what's being suggested here is there are only two ways forward, Kushal. Either you massage President Trump's ego, you flatter him, you acknowledge him, you validate him, or you stand up to his bullying tactics. I don't know what is this third way, because India has taken the classic approach. We'll negotiate quietly, we'll keep negotiating, we'll hold on to our classic positions of diplomacy. Nobody mediates ever for us. Nobody sits at our table except our people in the country we're dealing with. We will not give up that institutionally ingrained. And by the way, this is across parties. Whatever Rahul Gandhi is saying right now, this is across governments for decades is the Indian position. How are you reading it, Kushal?
There is a third way.
Which is?
We tire him.
We tire him. He said we tire him, Ambassador Sikri. He said the third way is to tire him. Basically,
Uh,
out negotiate him.
Trump,
see,
President Trump, to
Yes.
yes.
out-negotiate President Trump.
Basically, by dragging the talks on. So I guess what he's saying. I'll let you speak for yourself.
See,
Yeah, go ahead.
office was the greatest Indian explanation of what the Indian mind does. I look at Trump as Musaddilal and India as the office he's dealing with. I think eventually, see, I have full faith in the Indian bureaucracy to come up with such amazing responses every time Trump tweets something on Truth Social, and the response will be so airy fairy in triplicate. Because Indians love triplicates, there has to be 3 copies of everything. And, see, we will tire him eventually, and um, from a political see, there are different perspectives, right? There's the economic perspective, of which clearly there will be some short-term pain
Yeah.
if it goes through. I don't think it's going to go through. Just like with the Canadians, you notice how the behavior of Donald Trump is very similar with the Canadians also. I don't know if you guys are following that. It's very parallel to what he does. There's a lot of belligerence, and then somebody reaches out and think. From what I understand, there is a trade delegation from the United States of America that is scheduled to come on August 24th, this very month. So they're
Yeah.
coming to negotiate. We just have to go on negotiating. Barkha, how can we accept their demands in dairy? How can we? Are Indians not allowed any religious sensitivities, cultural sensitivities at all now? Are we going to surrender? Like, you think a politician is going to let somebody walk over them like that? Forget Modi. I don't think even the Congress would have done that. Nobody would have done that. You just can't let that happen. With Donald Trump, the best way is whenever he gets belligerent, you ignore him. Because then, see, there is only a certain limit till he has to up the ante. Then he can go ahead and put the tariffs on. What India should do is look at this as an opportunity, boost domestic demand. Are we saying that we have not removed tariffs? As a goodwill gesture, India has removed a lot of tariffs or reduced a lot of tariffs on multiple items. Have we not done that? From what I have understood through my talks with my sources in the government, the commerce ministry, we've actually agreed to opening up the agriculture sector in some areas too. We've actually agreed to it. This is just typical Donald Trump, and we're just stuck at the dairy bit now. We're stuck at the dairy bit. We're not going to agree to it. He has to understand.
So you don't think this is straightforward collapse of trade negotiations? Then how do you read the penalty? How do you read his obsessive fixation on wanting credit in Op Sindoor? Even I'm so bored with hearing it. I'm not playing the latest White House statement on it. No, really, I've lost count of the number of times the White House spokeswoman says it.
That's exactly what you're supposed to do. Stop bothering about what he says. There is no difference between Trump, the host of The Apprentice, and Trump, the president. That's exactly what he did every time. Like, anybody who's followed the man's career knows this is how he is. He keeps saying things. Like, we just ignore him. Trump is like that uncle in the society who comes and finds faults in everyone. And then beyond a point, you're like, ye to aisa hi hai, ye to bolne hi wala hai. So you just ignore him and then let the diplomats do the diplomaties. Why can't we do that?
So you're saying Trump is like the RWA uncle. Is it that simple? Before Seema and Ambassador Sikri respond to that, I want to play out the MEAs. Basically, Kushal only half jokingly is saying that Indian bureaucrats can basically tie Trump's negotiators up in knots. They can just prolong the negotiations. They can just keep at it. So keep at it. The MEA had
Our deadline is October. By the way, we are going
hai.
to most likely sign the deal by September, October. And don't be surprised if it does happen.
Okay, I want to first play out what the MEA said. The MEA spokesperson was asked 2 separate questions today. One was on a Reuters report suggesting that Indian state refineries had paused purchasing oil from Russia. He didn't give a very direct answer on that. And the other was on relations with Russia itself. Take a look at this.
Our ties with any country, or all the ties that we have with various countries, they stand on their own merit, and they should not be seen from the prism of a third country. As far as India-Russia relations are concerned, we have a steady and time-tested.
So he's saying with Russia, we have a steady and time-tested relationship, and that is what he has maintained in that press briefing. Now let's bring in Seema at this point. Seema, you're looking at what's the reactions coming in from the Hill. I think one of the things to raise is one diplomat said, we've got to save India-US relations from the chaos that Trump is creating. Trump is not at the center of India-US, but at the moment he is. Can he be ignored? I think that's the question. Kushal Mehra says just ignore him. Ignore him for now.
No, I would respectfully disagree. He is the top trade negotiator. So the old Indian tactic of keeping on negotiating and tying the talks down in months and years of negotiations is not the right tactic. This is a different kind of president, and you have to deal with him with a mixture of diplomacy and politics. So if he wants a headline, give him a headline. All the others have. Whether those deals that he has so proudly announced are being questioned in those home countries at home. The EU said finally that all the investment, we cannot direct our private companies to go and invest in the US. So those deals are coming into question at home. But he got the headline. He is talking to his support base. And the traditional idea that, India shouldn't do this or India shouldn't do that, or India should do it in a manner, as Ambassador Sikri was saying, that it cannot go beyond certain red lines. I agree. But there are ways within that to deal with this very difficult personality, very mercurial. And at the end of the day, he is the man who's deciding. Because I was told about 3 weeks ago, the Commerce Secretary of the US, Howard Lutnick, and the USTR, Jameson Greer, went up to Trump and said, look, we've got a good deal with India. He told them, no, this is not enough. Go get more. So it's you have to please. And pleasing him or satisfying him requires a different kind of diplomacy. That's what I would say. And if you don't change, then the relationship can worsen further, which is not in the interest of India or the US, of course. You could argue that at the lower levels, talks are going on, and the Quad foreign ministers met, and everything is happening as it's supposed to in the bilateral relationship. But this outburst by Trump has put the relationship in a very difficult spot. It's like back in 1998 when India conducted nuclear tests. And Bill Clinton used very intemperate language. So did the Secretary of State at the time, Madeleine Albright. Some have argued that it's even put India in a spot like when the Cold War ended and Indian foreign policy had to rework itself, completely reinvent itself. We might be at such a
provided Trump sticks to his position and doesn't do another sort of U-turn. But you are saying, I think, that you've got to give him something for him to do that U-turn. And if you remain adamant, then he's going to remain more and more adamant as well. And I want reactions to that. Kushal, I'll start with you because you're the one with the just out-negotiate him. That'll work. Bureaucrats will tie him up or his team up in North. Seema saying that's an old style. This is a new president.
Maybe we can do that image of, you remember those people with Donald Trump's image and wo tika laga rahe the, havan kar rahe the. Does that make him happy? I don't know. What are we supposed to do? We go around dancing like clowns around him. Like what we do? Sir, you're so awesome. Like in his accent, what are we supposed to do? The moment you please him on X, he's going to demand X plus 1. Then you do X plus 1, he's going to demand X plus 2. How many non-negotiables are we supposed to compromise on? Where do we draw the line? Because everybody's line is going to be different. Why can't we tire him a little more? Why?
Okay, so these are two very different views. Ambassador Sikri, let's bring you in. I think it's fair to say that Trump the old rules don't apply. If the old rules applied, look, Bill Clinton didn't go around in 1999 saying, I met Nawaz Sharif, and India must say that I met Nawaz Sharif, and, they must say it. David Cameron made phone calls to both countries right after the 26/11 attacks, and or his team or people in his government did. They didn't say that either. But there's no point, I think Seema Sirohi is arguing, lamenting for a politics that no longer exists in America. He is the US president. He is what he is. You've got to deal with the hand you've been dealt. Now the point is, how do you deal? Do you walk away from the table? Do you deal your own hand? Do you call his bluff? What do you do? Do you have any cards with which you can call his bluff?
No, first of all, India's way of diplomacy is not to walk away. We're not going to walk away. We're going to continue the negotiations. Absolutely, we're going to continue. And I can even give full credit to our negotiations that maybe they will come up with some kind of a deal. I mean, I don't even rule out. I agree with Kushal on that we will come up with some kind of a deal. Now, I think the issue today is that, again, if you talk about the mutuality of interest, something to recognize India's red line. This repeatedly talking about Pakistan and, of course, now even adding Bangladesh into the mix is not going to help at all, because it's a question seen in India as using the neighbors to needle India. So I think that, first of all, I would also like to draw attention to another point, which is the very issue of these tariffs. There are legal cases, legal challenges in America to the tariffs, where 6 democratic states have challenged whether President Trump has the authority to levy taxes, or whether this lies with Congress. Levying of tariffs and taxes are with the Congress. So all these issues are there. I think we have to take it very calmly and continue the negotiations. And at the same time, certainly, behind the scenes, different channels, see what kind of a deal could be worked out with President Trump that would result in a good trade negotiation. But I'm saying again and again, I agree with Kushal on this, that just giving in on tariffs is not the answer, because
Seema says, if he wants a headline, give him a headline. Find some other way. Say thank you, Trump, TRF, great move, etc.
For example, let's look at so many ways. Now, for example, we are only talking of trade in goods. All we're talking about is trade in goods and the imbalance in the trade in goods. And that, India is exporting more than we are importing from the USA. What about trade in services? What about investments? I mean, just the Indian students who go there, look at the amount, the billions of dollars that go into their being there, financing universities. In Canada last year, when Prime Minister was Justin Trudeau, there was a 1/3 or maybe even a 40% fall in Indian students going to Canada. And more than 10 colleges had to close down. More than 10,000 jobs were lost because this whole, the infrastructure financed by the large number of Indian students. These are all factors to be brought into balancing the trade, economic, investment relationship. It's not just pure goods in exchange of goods. It's not just trade in goods, trade in services, investments. There's so many things. I think a comprehensive, we are talking only of a BTA, bilateral trade agreement, but there's so many aspects which can have a bigger view of it. There are many, many creative ways in one can come up with a bigger thing. Investments by Indian companies in America is already taking place. It's quite a high figure, actually. There's many, many companies, including our IT companies, software companies, who are invested in America in a big way that has a value.
Sorry to cut you short there. So the question for me, I think, is there another way, or is it all related to, you were so great, you did this for us, you helped end the war? I want to, just for the benefit of everybody who may have missed this moment, from what the Prime Minister said about that phone call from JD Vance, I want to just play out what he said. Take a look.
दुनिया के किसी भी नेता ने भारत के ऑपरेशन रोकने के लिए नहीं कहा। उसी दौरान 9 तारीख को रात को अमेरिका के उपराष्ट्रपति जी ने मुझसे बात करने का प्रयास किया। वो घंटे भर कोशिश कर रहे थे, लेकिन मेरी सेना के साथ मीटिंग चल रही थी, तो मैंने उनका फोन उठा नहीं पाया। बाद में मैंने उनको कॉल बैक किया। मैंने कहा कि आपका फोन था, 3-4 बार आपका फोन आ गया, क्या है? तो अमेरिका के उपराष्ट्रपति जी ने मुझे फोन पे बताया कि पाकिस्तान बहुत बड़ा हमला करने वाला है। ये उन्होंने मुझे बताया। मेरा जो जवाब था, जिनको समझ नहीं आता है उनको तो नहीं आएगा, मेरा जवाब था, अगर पाकिस्तान का ये इरादा है तो उसे बहुत महंगा पड़ेगा। ये मैंने अमेरिका के उपराष्ट्रपति को कहा। अगर पाकिस्तान हमला करेगा तो हम बड़ा हमला कर करके जवाब देंगे। ये मेरा जवाब था।
All right. And then he goes on to say that, I said that if Pakistan wants a pause in this, their DGMO must call us. They called us. He elsewhere in his speech said Pakistan was brought on its knees and they had no other option. I'll start with you, Seema. PM doesn't mention Trump anywhere in that speech. And that's a political choice. But he also makes a sort of lighthearted, he doesn't mean to be lighthearted, but it's received as that Vance had to call me 3-4 times. I was busy with the military. I then called him back. I said, what happened? And he was saying, Pakistan's going to do this big attack. I said, if they do it, we'll do a bigger one, etc. Now, I do agree that I don't think any Indian prime minister can say at this moment or any other moment, we thank Trump for his role in diffusing the war, especially when our military, and we have maintained that, and the satellite imagery bears that out, has devastated Pakistan's air bases. Why would we club this with Trump? And I do agree with Ambassador Sikri that the American calls are often Pakistan-induced. It's Pakistan that will say, oh, there's going to be a big nuclear conflict. The West will then go into a tizzy. It'll start making these calls. So when you say, give him a headline that he wants, how do we do that without upending decades of sort of institutional strategic autonomy?
Look, I'm not saying that the Prime Minister should have mentioned it in his speech to Parliament, but maybe in a phone call. And when the Prime Minister came here in February, he flattered Trump quite nicely, and Trump flattered him back, and it seemed that things were okay. So the argument is that India is right in what it says as to how things happen. But the question is, the role of diplomacy is to achieve outcomes that you want, correct? It's not to score points. I mean, you can speak to domestic audiences in a manner that's suitable for that. But if you want something for the country in the national interest, you've got to do it differently. And in terms of Pakistan-induced, threats about nuclear war, we know that they have been doing it for years, for decades. That's the go-to place for Pakistan. They threaten, bring
exactly
flashpoint and all that. But why is that? It's because they recognize Americans, if they fear something, it is a nuclear conflagration. They play to that. No matter how much Indian delegation that came here, Shashi Tharoor very, eloquently made the point, we were not anywhere near the nuclear threshold. It doesn't make a difference. It goes nowhere. This is in the American DNA, like strategic autonomy or independence is in the Indian DNA. The fear of two neighbors who are both nuclear armed going further than just a conflagration is actually quite real. It gets both Democrats and Republicans worried. So that's
okay. Okay, so two things here before I come to Kushal and Ambassador Sikri. One is the politics that's playing out in India. We have seen a very, very contentious statement from Rahul Gandhi, not actually echoed by most individuals in his own party, on the economy being dead. That's the statement that Trump made, and Rahul Gandhi said he's right. He also said that ye deal to hoke rahega, and Trump will get what he wants. This is what he said in Parliament. Take a look.
The government has destroyed our economic policy, has destroyed our defense policy, has destroyed our foreign policy. Okay? They are running this country into the ground. You people don't say it. You people want to talk about other issues, right? But they are running this country into the ground. Prime Minister एक ही व्यक्ति के लिए काम करते हैं, अदानी. सारे के सारे स्मॉल बिजनेसेस उड़ा दिए. आप देख लीजिए, ये डील होगी. ट्रंप डिफाइन करेगा ये डील कैसे होगी, और मोदी वही करेगा जो ट्रंप कहेगा.
So, very unfortunate politics playing out here, Kushal. I had actually missed this part of his comment. I had noticed the one where he'd said, yes, the economy is dead. But he has said that Trump will get his deal and Trump will define the deal. And, he's just like we talk about Trump and we say he's the American president. You can't ignore what he says. Similarly with Rahul Gandhi, he's the leader of the opposition. This is how the politics is playing out right now, unfortunate as it is. Your response, because it isn't even like everybody's closing ranks necessarily. I think most Indians are. I think most Indians are very irritated at the idea of being hectored by the Americans. But I think the point Seema and Ambassador Sikri are making is that may not be the case if there's an economic pain, then people don't remember all that.
Keywords: if there is an economic pain. What is the total relationship as far as America is concerned in the larger export trajectory of India? What percentage is it? I'm not saying the pain will be zero before somebody misquotes me. How much would it be? We'll have to quantify this. If this was not a podcast about Indian laws and how successive Indian governments have made doing business in this country, and this is from a former entrepreneur who actually was in the textile trade for quite a long time. This is me talking. I can tell you that it's very hard to do business in India overall, but what am I supposed to react to what Mr. Gandhi says? Mr. Gandhi has a mind of his own. He says what he says. He's playing politics at a time where I don't think the country should be playing politics. We should be, I don't understand. Even I think Rajiv Shukla was not agreeing with him. Rajiv Shukla is also from the Congress. I clearly don't know. I think Congress is a divided house. Mr. Tharoor, if you heard Mr. Tharoor said something else.
No, I actually said that he was the only one in his party who said this. Rahul Gandhi was the only one in the Congress party who made this comment.
So that's the whole point. Rahul Gandhi and Trump should do the negotiation. I think that's the best thing. Rahul Gandhi ko beta do Trump ke saath. I think that is our secret weapon. We should unleash Rahul Gandhi on Trump. Trump बोलेगा ये किसको भेज दिया भाई? मतलब ये तो मेरे को लगता था मैं नमूना हूँ. ये किसको भेज दिया तुमने? But Barkha, on a serious note, we have one Trump card on America, which my dear friend Harsh Madhusudan Gupta mentioned yesterday on social media. I'm actually sad that Harsh is not here with us to discuss that. But Harsh did mention that, when we talk about this trade deficit with America, it's a very smart maneuvering done where, because American big tech is all Ireland based, all the trade that happens with American big tech through Ireland is never counted in that figure. Aap note kar rahe ho? Kyunki American big tech, all of them are based in Ireland. I hope all of you guys are aware of that. So that number is never calculated. They have a carte blanche in India. They have a virtual market monopoly in India. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter or whatever, X, uske bade naam ho gaye. YouTube, all these are American big tech companies. These are not global big tech companies. American big tech. Why is that number not calculated? And why is everybody assuming that India can't use that American big tech as a serious point of negotiation? Matlab hum itne to gaye guzre nahi hai yaar. Barkha, I may have many disagreements with Indira Gandhi, but Indira Gandhi stood in the 1970s in India. Are we kidding ourselves that 2025 India cannot stand up to the Americans? Are we really kidding ourselves? Like, I'm not saying be belligerent. I actually am deeply opposed, and I do think Trump has a point. India does tariff too much. So Trump actually is right. Trump is right. I would support him on that. But the point is, I'm sorry, you can't have the president of another country, no matter which country they are, talking to India. I'm talking about India. I don't care if it's Prime Minister Modi. My stand would be the same if it was Prime Minister Rahul Gandhi. You don't talk to my country like that and then expect me to negotiate nicely. I want the Musaddillah, the bureaucratic powers of India to torture Trump for one more year so that he realizes what the Indian babudam can unleash. Usko bhi to pata chale humko kya jhelna padta.
Okay, that's only a half joke, but I think you capture the spirit of what I think. If you went for street sentiments, Seema, before I give Ambassador Sikri the last word, it would be exactly this. Don't talk to us like this. Don't talk to us like this. We didn't like it in the 70s, we didn't like it in the 80s, but in 2025, we're a much more self-confident, assertive nation. And trade is a different conversation, but first be polite, right? I think that's just commonsensical sentiment. And you're saying Trump isn't like that with anybody. But
Correct.
but let's talk a little bit about his love affair with Pakistan. You've spoken about US lobbies. There's talk about a deal between, a hastily put together Pakistan Crypto Council and a private US company where Trump's family has more than 60% sort of equity in it, right? So why are we not talking about that? What is this new love for Pakistan?
It is old love plus money. That is what's going on. The US has always had a relationship with Pakistan, and Pakistanis have played Trump 2.0 much better, dare I say, than India did. India was a little too confident because Trump 1.0 went really well for India. Many things were achieved. The bilateral relationship grew and grew. Quad was revived, etc., etc. There are 10 things that happened that were really positive. 2.0 is a completely different ballgame. Pakistanis read that right. We've got to give credit where credit is due. They got the right lobbies. India has employed some guy called Jason Miller, allegedly for $1.8 million per year. Tell me, where is the effect showing? In no way is he in the Trump inner circle. While Pakistan employed Keith Schiller, who is a former bodyguard of Trump, former New York police officer, looked after Trump Towers for many years, and meets Trump very often. So what are we talking about? I can imagine many scenarios in which the 12 or 13 companies that are working for Pakistan right now, people from there are whispering in Trump's inner ear or his sons and people close to the, in the inner circle that, it's the time to teach India a lesson. Things like that. It is the first time where, since the 70s, where America, China and Pakistan seem to be on one side and India on the other, right? So we have to ask some really hard questions about what went wrong, where did we read the thing wrong, and
Okay.
accordingly.
Ambassador Sikri, closing comment. I mean, Kushal said in the chat that why are we forgetting that he even thinks that there's going to be oil in Pakistan? So not everything about this Trump-Pakistan equation can be taken seriously. I take that point. But there is some bizarre love fest, as Ambassador Sikri said, going on between the two sides. Closing word to you, Veena Sikri.
Well, I think quite clearly that what Trump is doing in his second presidential term is totally different from what he did in his first presidential term, where he had actually criticized Pakistan and called them out on terrorism, cancelled financial deals with Pakistan. So now this is a complete reversal. Now that's fine. Any country can build its relations, differently with any other country. It's fine by us, but not at our cost. I mean, they can do everything they want with Pakistan, but why should it be at the cost of India? This is what is inexplicable. with India, we have a certain relationship with America. We have a a strategic partnership. We're doing NISAR, we're doing IMEC, we're doing ICT, the critical emerging technologies. We're doing so many good things, and they're working for both countries. There are investments by American companies here. There are further investments coming in. Chinese companies from China are moving into India. All that is going on. Why should all this come? And why should this relationship with Pakistan come at the cost of India? It is not a zero-sum game. We're not questioning what
So what
Pakistan is
now? So what now? What now?
saying, that we have to continue with the negotiation. That's number one. But number two, we're not going to be bullied into it. I think our Prime Minister's statement in Parliament is absolutely, the way he's laying out his red lines. We are prepared to talk to, but if you agree to 25% tariffs, tomorrow it will be 50%. And what will you do? So I think we have to find different avenues for our exports. The impact on India, total India's exports are only 2.2% of India's GDP. And maybe the total exports to America, just goods, are only 1% of India's GDP, or around that, maybe a little less. So I don't think in India's mind, in the people of India's mind, that we are looking at some kind of a very harsh impact on the Indian economy. You saw yesterday that the Indian stock market shrugged off the tariffs. I mean, it didn't go up, it didn't go down either. It just shrugged it off. So I think India is not a country that is going to be threatened with Pakistan and Bangladesh. We know how the Bangladesh events happened in August last year, a year ago. We know that. It was the Biden deep state. We know all those involvements. Now, why and when and where, why did it happen like that? One would have expected that Trump's presidential promise was that I'm going to end the deep state. Has that deep state ended? Are those same issues of the deep state continuing? There are so many questions to be asked that I don't think we're going to be, taken into it with this, into that. We will not be able to negotiate a bilateral trade agreement on this basis, but we are ready to negotiate a bilateral trade agreement, which hopefully will take on board trade and services, investments, and everything, and be a comprehensive trade agreement, which will show to the world what the two economies are doing together and what the potential that we can do together. I'm sure it will be an enormously successful trade, investment, and services agreement. I'm sure that is possible, but not in this way. I think the whole issue of tariffs being weaponized, this is a big question. The world is going to start asking this question. And India, of course, many in India are asking this question. You've seen all the comments by Indian commentators, by economists, by others. They're all based on this. So why the weaponization of tariffs? How can it help the economy?
I think the bottom line is that India is not willing to be bullied, certainly not needled with Pakistan and Bangladesh, and everything else is at this moment wide open. The negotiations are going to carry on. Ambassador Sikri believes that it's not India's way to walk away from that negotiating table. So that is going to carry on. It's interesting, or it will be interesting to see whether Trump climbs down from this maximalist position. Is there something that happens in the back channel that can achieve that? As they say, watch this space. Thank you so much. This has been a riveting conversation. To Seema Sirohi, Ambassador Sikri, Kushal Mehra, always a pleasure. Thank you, and see you all soon.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Vote Her Story and support independent, robust journalism.